and FedEx Ground are merging. 4 local sites are shutting down as
I bus in my and I was just laid off. These companies do not care about us.
FedEx loses that business, and now they don't need as many workers.
On Tuesday, over 200 FedEx employees had the rug pulled from underneath.
Really given my whole energy and life over the last 4 months to this job, and to be let go for no reason is like a huge slap in the face.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to show up for work and find your badge doesn't work? Do you know how a global delivery giant can lose 70,000 jobs in just 4 years? And what happens when robots sort 56,000 packages an hour? How many drivers are left on the road?
I don't work anymore because I'm working every day very hard, and I never had money.
FedEx peaked at 570,000 employees in 2021, riding a pandemic surge. Since then, the headcount has slid year after year, to 547,000 in 2022, 529,000 in 2023, 505,000 in 2024, and as of May 31st, 2025, about 500,000, a total drop of roughly 70,000 jobs, minus 12%. This steady shrinkage masks dramatic WARN notices. In February 2024, 326 roles vanished in Union City, Georgia. April 2024 saw 217 cuts in Lebanon, Tennessee, and this summer, Greensboro, North Carolina, and Omaha, Nebraska, each lost 266 jobs. Automation and consolidation under the Network 2.0 plan are at the heart of these cuts. By merging Express and Ground into one truck, one label, FedEx aims to save $2 billion annually toward a broader $6 billion drive program.
The facility, the second link in getting packages sorted and outbound, is fully automated, according to FedEx, able to sort 56,000 pieces per hour.
The newly opened Memphis Secondary 25 facility, spanning 1.3 million square feet with 11 miles of conveyor and 56,000 packages sorted per hour, hints at the future.
The world's most flexible, efficient, and smartest logistics network.
Human sorters could drop by 40% by 2027. Just as the scale hit home, a veteran express driver shared,
It's actually extremely stressful for all of us, including the loaders, including everybody in the terminal.
that stress reflects deeper strains. U.S. daily parcel volume slid from 16.9 million in fiscal year 2022 to 14.8 million so far in fiscal year 2025. Losing key clients, like the USPS air cargo contract to UPS, chipped off $120 million in revenue, while Amazon's exodus in 2019 continues to reverberate. Financially, FedEx remains flush on paper. A $5 billion stock buyback launched in March 2024, plus $3.5 billion repurchased by mid-2025. Yet employees facing WARN notices report just 2 weeks of pay per year of service as severance.
Hundreds of FedEx workers in Raleigh and in Durham are going to need to find new jobs in the new year.
Yeah, the company's laying off 123 people in Durham and another 218 in Raleigh. The cuts go into effect by February 3rd.
In Raleigh, layoffs of 123 staff and 218 in Durham, effective February 2025, left many scrambling for new roles. Employee morale sank further with stories like Tony's.
Now Tony gets to take off the shirt permanently because he was let go by the new contractor because the new contractor wouldn't keep to his promises for the drivers.
Across the country, small towns feel the impact. In Fort Worth, 305 jobs disappeared when a major client fled. Local surveys show 20 to 30% drops in small business revenue within 60 days of hub closures. Displaced workers offered transfers up to 50 miles away, except less than 25% of the time, making severance their only real option. Even back-office teams felt the pain. Europe trimmed 1,700 to 2,000 roles, saving $125 to $175 million annually. That echoes a May 31st, 2025 report noting FedEx's global headcount down 1% year over year, following steady annual cuts of 18 to 24,000 employees, a shift toward machines over manpower. And machines are everywhere. FedEx's Drive program includes AI route balancing that maps real-time package density, trimming delivery legs, and sidelining drivers. Electric and autonomous vehicle pilots promise lower operating costs, though full autonomy remains years away. Before we dive back in, please hit the like button. Your support fuels every story we share. We're aiming for 5,000 subscribers on Global Insight, and your subscription would mean the world to us. Thank you for helping us grow. Now let's continue. The fallout from FedEx's cuts is already showing in delivery times and customer frustration. In Network 2.0 markets, where Express and Ground merge, FedEx touted a 10% drop in pickup and delivery costs. But early integration glitches led to a 23% spike in billing errors and service gaps on about 15% of routes. Small businesses that depend on next-day delivery report, delayed inventory restocks, and unhappy clients.
You're at $32 an hour. $32 an hour. You go home.
In 2025, WARN notices hit hard again. On September 1st, Des Moines, Iowa lost 84 roles. Greensboro and Omaha each cut 102 to 164 positions. In North Texas, 81 jobs in Garland and 50 in Plano disappeared as routes consolidated. California saw 79 cuts in Emeryville and 95 in Oakland, effective June 2nd. And in Blountville, Tennessee, 88 workers were let go, March 31st. Fort Worth's 305 roles melted away when a major 3PL contract moved to a competitor this summer. Amid these waves, an article snapped attention. Financially, revenue has plateaued. Fiscal year 2025 guidance shows flat or slightly declining top line, $87.9 billion in fiscal year 2024 versus $87.7 billion in fiscal year 2023. Operating margin aims for 8% plus, but quarter first 2025 hit 7.4%, pressured by integration costs. Meanwhile, FedEx's Mexican ADR trades at 4,450 Mexican pesos, down nearly 20% year over year, valuing the company at 1.04 trillion Mexican pesos. Even as it pulls in 1.7 trillion MXN in revenue and nets 79 billion MXN in profit. Many employees bristle at a 2.5% dividend and massive buybacks, while they face abrupt WARN notices with minimal severance. Service ramifications extend to rural America. Independent service providers now cover expanded routes without pay bumps, creating delivery deserts beyond urban centers.
FedEx just announced it plans to lay off more than 100 employees in North Texas. These cuts will impact 81 workers in Garland and another 50 in Plano.
The labor climate is heating up. Teamster organizers eye FedEx Freight, aiming to leverage high turnover and safety concerns. If successful, binding wage negotiations could alter Drive's cost-cutting math. FedEx's contractors report turnover spikes as drivers quit under insane conditions and low pay, with one ex-employee noting,
"They got me loading this truck and this truck all by myself, and it's only my third day. Boxes keep on coming and they will never stop."
Meanwhile, Memphis's secondary 25 hub hums along with 1,000 AI camera sensors. But technician jobs, 85 new roles, are a fraction of the hundreds displaced. Real-time route balancing software consolidates overlapping express ground runs, leaving many drivers with less work or forced reroutes that add hours without extra pay. On the customer side, pilot customers report inconsistent transit times. A small batch retailer told CNBC, "Our weekly orders now take 2 extra days, and FedEx's support line blames station closures." Independent research shows a 15% increase in transit times on recently consolidated routes. Federal warnings are ticking. FedEx confirmed 250 plus more station conversions through fiscal year 2026. If that pace holds, nearly a third of U.S. centers will close by 2027, stranding further communities.
With federal cuts under the Trump administration,
still very fresh, Memphians think this is just the beginning.
By year's end, FedEx's transformation leaves a stark landscape. Thousands of routes optimized, but tens of thousands of workers displaced. The Drive and Network 2.0 cuts drove global headcount down from 547,000 in 2022 to 500,000 today, a 12% slide. More than 100 U.S. stations have closed, with 250 plus more conversions planned through 2026. Communities know the real toll. In Fort Worth, where 305 roles vanished this summer, local retailers tell of 30% revenue drops as drivers disappear. In rural Iowa, deliveries now reroute through hubs 50 miles away. Farmers waiting days for seed and feed. Even corporate ranks feel the squeeze. While FedEx spent $3.5 billion on stock buybacks by mid-2025, severance packages capped at 2 weeks per service year leave many scrambling. A Bloomberg report noted FedEx shares trade at 4,450 Mexican pesos, down 20% year over year, as the market questions whether efficiency gains can outpace human cost. Automation marches on. The secondary 25 hub in Memphis, 1.3 million square feet, 56,000 packages per hour, 1,000 AI camera sensors, handled more than half of primary sort by August. AI route balancing software slashes driver miles, but leaves riders with unpredictable schedules. A veteran driver lamented,
Started FedEx at 2:30 a.m. and quit at 2:50 a.m. They need slaves, not me.
Looking ahead, FedEx warns of more facility consolidations and further shrinks in human roles, up to 40% fewer in sorting and delivery by 2027. Yet unions are mobilizing. Teamsters eye FedEx Freight, hoping to secure job protections and wage hikes. Local leaders in West Boylston, Massachusetts, and Emeryville, California, are exploring tax incentives to attract new employers. But replacing a multi-billion-dollar hub is no easy feat. FedEx's own reports hint at the paradox. A 10% cost reduction in converted markets comes with transit glitches and billing errors, 23% higher during cutovers. Investors applaud the Drive program's $2 billion savings target, but customers bristle at inconsistent service as delivery deserts expand in low-volume areas. The final question looms. Can FedEx balance automation with its human promise? Or will these towers of conveyor and code forever replace the drivers and packers who built the network? When sorting machines and route cuts shave hours and jobs at hubs, the effect travels down the chain. Fewer trucks, longer runs, and extra handling all add time and cost. And those costs show up where most of us notice them: price tags and empty aisles.
President Trump, a short time ago, telling Walmart that the company should, I'm quoting now, eat the cost.
Walmart plans to cut about 1,500 jobs in a restructuring aimed at trimming its expenses and speed up decision-making. The Wall Street Journal reports that the company told employees it will reshape some of the teams, particularly in global technology.
Some breaking news happened just a few moments ago. Walmart now saying it must raise prices to deal with the cost of tariffs.
There's a job that pays $16.50. Need to have a second round of interviews. This is a receptionist job. Just hire me.
Have you noticed prices at your local Walmart climbing week after week? Are you worried about finding basic groceries on your shelf next month? And did you see that Walmart just cut 1,500 corporate jobs, even as it pledges to support U.S. manufacturing? Welcome to 2025, where President Trump's new tariffs are shaking America, and Walmart's response threatens to spark a food crisis. In April 2025, the White House imposed a 10% tariff on nearly all imports and slashed a 50% duty on steel, aluminum, and copper, costs that quickly made their way into retail margins. Walmart's CEO, Doug McMillon, warned tariffs would force price hikes. With narrow margins, the company simply can't eat the tariffs, as Trump demanded on Truth Social. Walmart made billions of dollars last year. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. By May, Walmart announced 1,500 corporate job cuts in technology and e-commerce units, far from the sensational 50,000 layoffs you may have heard, but a clear sign they're tightening belts. Meanwhile, rumors swirled of 10 distribution centers closing and 50,000 workers displaced. In reality, Walmart has closed 11 underperforming stores and is remodeling 650 locations, investing $350 billion over 10 years to create 750,000 U.S. jobs and buy more American-made goods. Still, the consumer feels the sting. Fresh produce prices are projected to rise 4% in 2025, while overall food costs climb 2.8% per Axios. Olive oil could spike 20%. Beef rumors of a jump from $9 to $14 per pound persist, though unconfirmed, and egg prices may soar 33%. The Tax Foundation pegs the average household's tariff burden at $1,200 a year, more for families already spending 30% of their income on food. In parts of China, retaliatory duties of 34% on U.S. farm goods are already choking exports. The American Farm Bureau reports $13.2 billion in annual losses from past tariffs. 2025 could mirror that. If major wheat and soybean buyers pivot to Canada and Brazil instead, our own supply chains strain, risking local shortages of coffee, bananas, and shrimp. Workers' voices capture the anxiety.
The most humbling part about LinkedIn is when you get that notification that says you're the perfect candidate for this role and you get rejected within an hour anyways.
I got laid off 3 times in 3 years. The last time was November 2023, the night before Thanksgiving. Let me tell you, it ruined my appetite.
I've applied to over 1,000 jobs, to even low-paying jobs. I've applied to internships. I don't know what else to do.
Add in the news headline, Walmart says tariffs will drive up prices but avoid panic buying. Do this instead, and you see the tightrope Walmart walks. Warn customers without sparking runs on canned goods. Amazon, Target, and Costco also scramble, shifting orders to Vietnam and Mexico to dodge duties. Yet Walmart's scale makes its moves a bellwether. If they can't absorb costs, who can? Next, we'll dive deeper into how these pressures unfold across U.S. towns. Grocery shelves hollow out, local businesses struggle, and Project Reset automation plans replace warehouses' night shifts. We'll also reveal how small retailers and farmers face the real brunt of this food crisis. Stay tuned. The ripple effects have already reached store aisles and kitchen tables across America. In Texas and Florida, Walmart's price tags now show a nearly 4% bump on fresh produce and a 2.8% average increase on pantry staples. Families report swapping name brands for generics just to stretch their budgets. One Reddit user summed it up. Why is getting a job at retail so hard? I've applied to dozens of stores since November, and still nothing. That desperation isn't just about jobs, it's about food on the table. Some regions face empty shelves of olive oil, canned beans, and coffee. Rice imports slowed as shipping costs jumped under new tariffs, leaving grocery aisles eerily bare. Small grocers, without Walmart's buying power, struggle to pass on costs without losing customers. In Maine, a family-owned market saw foot traffic drop 20% in May. Locals refused to pay the new higher prices. Meanwhile, U.S. farmers feel the pinch overseas. China slapped a 34% retaliatory tariff on U.S. soybeans and pork, trimming American export revenues by $13.2 billion in 2024, and 2025 promises more of the same. Southeast Asian buyers turn to Brazilian growers, who face zero import duties. As a result, U.S. hog producers report a 5% drop in export volume, leaving excess supply and pushing farm gate pork prices down. Yet, retail pork costs still climb, squeezed by higher processing and transport expenses. Walmart's Project Reset is supposed to streamline supply chains, closing several regional warehouses and automating order sorting. But in Pennsylvania and California, warehouse workers find their night shifts replaced by robots that never clock out. Local unemployment offices record a 12% uptick in jobless claims from transportation and logistics sectors in the past quarter. Without these distribution hubs, small retailers lose crucial delivery windows, and consumers face longer wait times for online orders. Target and Costco aren't immune. Target's pivot to Vietnamese suppliers cuts costs, but creates new delays. Some customers wait up to 3 weeks for electronics they once picked up in days. Costco's Canadian division now matches U.S. prices, but American warehouse members see fewer bulk deals. A regional Costco manager confessed, "We're losing our big spenders. Canadian members who drove across borders for deals are gone, and our U.S. foot traffic hasn't filled the gap." Even Walmart's domestic factory investments can't offset the pain. Doug McMillan touts a $350 billion commitment to U.S. manufacturing over 10 years. Yet most of that will build capacity for tomorrow, not solve today's shortages. In the meantime, lower-income households, already spending 30% of income on food, cut back on essentials, milk, eggs, and fresh meat. A local food bank in Ohio reported a 25% increase in visits in June 2025 alone. Amid the crisis, consumer confidence is plummeting. The Conference Board notes its national index fell 7 points to 98.3 in February, then slid further to 92.9 in March. Shoppers cite tariffs and rising grocery bills as top concerns. Social media blazes with hashtags like #FoodCrisis2025 and #TariffPain as families share wilted produce photos and empty carts. As summer of 2025 heats up, communities nationwide are scrambling for solutions. In Ohio, Governor DeWine activated emergency food assistance vouchers for 150,000 families, funded by a one-time $200 million appropriation. North Carolina's legislature fast-tracked a bill capping grocery price increases at 5% for 6 months, hoping to blunt the tariff sting. But critics argue it risks scaring away suppliers. Meanwhile, grassroots efforts spring up. In Springfield, Missouri, local farmers launched a pop-up co-op, week-long markets in vacant storefronts offering tariff-shielded corn, soy, and local beef at pre-tariff prices. Lines formed before dawn as customers, once loyal to big-box discounts, rediscovered homegrown staples. Within 3 weeks, the co-op sold out 5 times over, proving that direct farm-to-table can undercut even the lowest grocery margins. On Capitol Hill, a bipartisan coalition introduced the Tariff Relief Act of 2025, aiming to roll back the 10% blanket duty on general imports and halve steel and aluminum levies to 25%. Proponents argue it would lower consumer costs by 2% immediately and restore disrupted supply chains. Opponents warn that without tariffs, domestic manufacturing loses its shield, leaving American jobs vulnerable. Hearings are set for August, with CEOs from Walmart, Target, and the AFBF testifying on real-world impacts. In boardrooms, Walmart's U.S. manufacturing pledge gears up to ramp domestic sourcing. Plans include a new Midwestern meat processing plant slated to open in early 2026, promising 1,200 jobs, and pilot programs with regional packers to cut shipping distances and costs by 15%. But those benefits are months away, while families face empty shelves today. At the federal level, USDA researchers warn of lasting damage. Prolonged food price inflation can shift buying habits permanently, reducing dietary quality and increasing health costs. A 2025 Cornell study predicts 20% of low-income households will remain underfed even if price hikes end next year, due to depleted savings and eroded trust in retail stability. Costco and Kroger quietly lobby for targeted tariff carve-outs on perishables, arguing that fear of imported goods fees has led to a 10% drop in cross-border food trade, once a lifeline for northern states near the Canadian border. They propose a food security exemption to restore bananas, coffee, and olive oil that aren't produced domestically but are staples in American diets. When rising prices and empty shelves hit the register, the strain travels backward, all the way to warehouses and the people who drive the trucks. As retailers squeeze margins and reroute volumes, carriers tighten operations, and drivers often end up on the front line of that squeeze.
These are big job cuts coming to UPS, the company announcing that they will lay off those 20,000 workers and close a number of facilities as it dramatically reduces shipments of Amazon packages.
At least 200, the article says, 200 of the hubs are going to be converted to be very, very much automated.
2025 revenue guidance and operating profit coming in weaker than expected. And UPS is having its worst day on record.
UPS will offer buyouts to its delivery drivers.
The full-time drivers are eligible for a buyout and can keep their earned retirement benefits, including pensions and health care.
I have 14 years left with this company with my brothers and sisters. So if you want to know what my buyout's going to be about 1.96 million.
Have you ever shown up to work only to find a layoff notice on your desk? What happens when a delivery giant cuts one in every 20 jobs? And how do tariffs and Amazon's shifting volumes force long-time drivers out the door?
They about to fire because, dang, how the I do that?
UPS's 2025 cost-cutting drive slashes 20,000 positions, about 4% of its 490,000 global workforce. That follows 12,000 cuts in 2024, bringing the two-year total to 32,000 jobs lost. By June 2025, 73 sorting facilities and hubs will close, aiming to save $3.5 billion. Early in the year, Carol Tomei, UPS's CEO, told shareholders,
"We'll close about 10% of our buildings throughout the United States as an example of how we're freeing up assets and resources."
If we were to talk about what the company's goal is to have less drivers on the bottom and the top side. And this buyout program is to nudge some of those drivers that are ready to retire or thinking about leaving to go.
That clip highlights the human side of voluntary buyouts. Drivers pushed toward green lights and early exits. Unlike FedEx, UPS's 2024 cuts spared drivers. In 2025, however, voluntary buyouts offer $1,800 per year of service, minimum $10,000, and full-time drivers face tough choices: stay or take the deal.
I found out that one, my truck got red tagged last night. And for those of you that don't know, that means I'm not allowed to drive my truck. I had to sit there. So all my stuff, my water, everything, I had to go search and search and search. But I also just got completely screwed today.
This speaker's struggle captures the sudden, wrenching reality. Drivers sidelined with no notice, heavy loads undelivered, and bills still due. UPS's financial picture adds context. Q2 2025 revenue dipped 2.7% to $21.2 billion, down from $91.1 billion in 2024. Its stock has slid nearly 33% year-to-date, trading within an 84 to 145 range, and valuing the company at about $71.6 billion.
There's a lot going on at UPS, right? First, you're losing 50% of Amazon business over the 6 quarters, right? So by mid next year, they're going to have lost 50%.
The backdrop: Amazon, once a major UPS client, now makes up 11.8% of 2024 revenue, but will see its parcel volume slashed by 50% by mid-2026. 500,000 Amazon parcels a month will leave the UPS network in Q3 2025. At the same time, Trump's 2025 tariffs bite. A 145% levy on Chinese goods and the end of the low-value exemption drove a 34.8% drop in China to U.S. shipments in May-June. China accounted for 11% of UPS's international revenue, and now those parcels vanish or reroute. Union pressure mounts. Teamsters President Sean O'Brien warns UPS, "You're contractually obligated to create 30,000 Teamster jobs," and vows a hell of a fight over any violations. The 2023 to 2028 contract already adds about $30 billion in new labor expenses, but that won't stop the network reconfiguration. First casualty of Donald Trump's tariffs and trade war: UPS to cut 20,000 jobs amid drop in Amazon shipments. That headline nails the stakes. Tariffs, Amazon's retreat, and automation converge to reshape an industry. and leave thousands out in the cold. Next, we'll examine how facility closures are slowing deliveries, which communities are hardest hit, and the bold tech UPS deploys to replace human hands.
We already delivered 50% of the SurePost product, so we're only insourcing the remaining 50%. It's a better value proposition for our customers, and it's a better value proposition for our share owners. And
the ripple effects of UPS's cuts go beyond pink slips. With fewer hands on deck, delivery promises are stretching thin. At a suburban Detroit hub, drivers report parcels stacking up on loading docks, as the company's better not bigger reorientation shifts focus to profitable lanes over coverage.
That the interest of them is to minimize the workforce by way of buyouts, by not consulting the union in order to thin that said workforce to generate more profit, moving higher paid guys out and lower paid guys in.
That clip zeroes in on frustration over how buyouts were structured, with management negotiating individual deals, while union-represented drivers must go through collective bargaining. A frontline worker confirms
24 months of continuous pay or a lump sum, and maybe continued benefit. But if you're a Teamster, you'd have to get that you'd have to negotiate it through the union. And if you're management, you'd have to negotiate it on your own, or maybe hire your own lawyer.
This divide fuels mistrust as seasoned drivers face exits while newer, lower-paid hires fill routes. Delivery delays now routinely hit tracking updates. In mid-June, customers across Ohio saw ground shipments arrive 2 days late. UPS's own internal audit flagged a 12% increase in multi-day transit events compared to Q1. Companies that once relied on next-day service are forcing backups with freight carriers or even local couriers. Those pressures compound in local economies. In Metro Atlanta, UPS's home base, small retailers report a 15% slump in foot traffic when deliveries miss restocking windows. Community leaders warn of a domino effect. If stores can't get inventory, jobs suffer too. Meanwhile, the push for automation everywhere accelerates. UPS has earmarked 400 facilities for partial or full robotic sorting by year's end, squeezing workloads in traditional hubs. Early tests of AI-guided package scanning and conveyor belt arms in Phoenix and Newark show errors down by 8%, but maintenance teams are stretched thin, handling breakdowns and software updates. On Reddit, one former driver summed it up bluntly. "I've done a lot of jobs, and the UPS work ethic is different. It's a toxic environment with no proper training, and the workload is extremely harsh on your body." That sentiment echoes across online forums as seasonals quit mid-shift, forcing veteran drivers to cover extra routes at a moment's notice. Financial markets aren't blind to the trend. An industry report warns that as logistics labor shrinks, 200,000 Wall Street jobs could follow suit under mounting AI pressures, mirroring broader fears in sectors from finance to retail. Wall Street expected to shed 200,000 jobs as AI erodes roles. In response, UPS promises investment in people, rolling out up to $3.5 billion in CapEx this year for training, safety upgrades, and EV trucks to reduce driver fatigue. But skeptics note that most of that budget targets automation and software, not headcount stabilization. Across the industry, competitors are watching closely. FedEx's more modest restructuring spared 2,025 driver cuts, while USPS's early retirement incentive nudged 10,000 postal workers out the door. In 2024, logistics continues expanding its own network, absorbing parcels UPS no longer wants.
As part of the largest reconfiguration in UPS history, the package delivery service announced it will be blasting 20,000 jobs.
As UPS's network reshapes, paychecks tell a stark story. At one Midwestern center, a full-time driver shared this week's haul.
This is per 1 week, and we have a total earnings of $2,004.98, taxes of $487.49, total deductions of $204.25, with a net take-home for the week of $1,313.24.
Even with a solid rate, unpredictable schedules and sudden route cuts mean hours vanish faster than pay can stabilize. A veteran driver reacts.
I've been there with the company close to 10, driving 6, but if this is what they think we're worth, like how hard it was to get there as a driver, just to see those numbers, that's a slap in the face, man.
Those frustrations come as UPS quietly reports a mixed quarter. UPS reports better revenue, lower profit than expected. While revenue edged up slightly, profit margins fell short of Wall Street targets, underscoring that cost cuts haven't fully offset volume declines and automation investments. In rural Pennsylvania, a former hub supervisor launched a petition demanding local tax breaks to keep facility jobs in town. A township meeting drew over 200 residents, farmers, shop owners, and families, pleading for emergency incentives. Nearby, a community college fast-tracks a half-day logistics tech certificate, hoping to reskill laid-off employees for EV maintenance and AI diagnostics roles. UPS's own forecasts project that by 2027, 25% of ground routes will operate via electric vans, and 15% of sortation could shift to micro-hubs using autonomous carts. Yet real-world testing in Phoenix showed a 10% uptick in missed stops during peak heat. Human judgment still outperforms algorithms when roads warp under 110-degree Fahrenheit sun. Across the South, an Avondale, Alabama plant repurposed its closing hub into a community kitchen, feeding former employees and neighbors. That grassroots effort earned a Community Resilience Award from the Chamber of Commerce, proof that people adapt even when corporations retreat. In Washington, D.C., lawmakers held hearings where Teamsters, small business owners, and UPS executives sparred over the scope of buyouts and the pace of automation. Proposed federal grants for last-mile jobs could subsidize 50% of wages for drivers in underserved areas, but funding remains stalled in committee. Meanwhile, FedEx is quietly evaluating similar automation pilots, and USPS advanced its Deliver AI program pairing drones with vans, ideas UPS may need to match to keep pace. Amazon continues expanding its own fleet, hiring 15,000 drivers in the second quarter of 2025 alone, and pressuring UPS to either win back volume or cede ground. The big question now: can UPS balance the drive for digital efficiency with the human promise it built its brand on? Routes, hubs, and headcounts will keep shifting. But one thing's clear: in towns from Atlanta to Omaha, the road forward depends on whether technology serves people or simply replaces them. If you've been affected or know someone who has, share this video and join the conversation below. Let's make sure voices from every route get heard. When hubs close and trucks run less often, store shelves empty, and the big warehouse parking lots feel it first. Fewer deliveries and slower restocks make cross-border trips less worth the hassle. And that quiet quickly reaches Costco's bulk bins and freezer aisles.
With the looming threat of U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs, the Buy Canadian movement have picked up across the country. You may have noticed it when you go into grocery stores or supply shops, a tag that tells you if the product you're about to pick up is made in Canada.
That's bullying. We're a tenth of the size of that country, 300 million or 400 million people in the States and about 40 million in Canada. But we pick no fight. But it just keeps coming to us.
Have you noticed empty parking lots at your favorite U.S. border stores? Have your weekend shopping trips across the border become a thing of the past? And did you realize that billions of Canadian dollars have quietly vanished from American cash registers? Welcome to the silent boycott, where Canadians have pulled back their wallets en masse, exerting a profound, yet nearly invisible, economic pressure on U.S. retailers in 2025.
Chop meat, $17.90, $17.46 for 3 pounds of chop meat. Are you out of your freaking mind?
In May 2025, Statistics Canada and Forbes reported a dramatic 38% plunge in Canadian car crossings and a 24% drop in air travel compared to May 2024, equivalent to roughly 2.3 million fewer trips in April alone. Driven by a weakened loonie trading at $1 Canadian dollar 44 cents to $1 Canadian dollar 50 cents per US dollar, soaring gasoline prices, new tolls on key bridges, and a swirl of political tensions, ranging from U.S. import tariffs on Canadian steel to inflammatory annexation rhetoric. Canadians have reevaluated the once-cherished weekend excursion. No longer a carefree tradition, border strolling now carries hidden costs that many simply can't justify.
I'm going to put a screenshot here of how much we spent in August, which was $2,500. This is not including eating out. This is not including anything. It's just strictly groceries and Costco. 3-pound bag of grapes costed me $19.
Border town giants like Walmart, Target, and Macy's once relied on Canadian shoppers for up to 70% of weekend revenue. Erie County in New York, for example, saw more than 35,000 fewer Canadian-plated vehicles passing Peace Bridge in the first 2 months of 2025, translating into a $5 million shortfall in local retail tax revenue. As U.S. stores scrambled to stem the tide, some began accepting Canadian dollars at par, offering steep discounts or even free parking to entice dwindling cross-border traffic. Yet these stopgap measures have only partially softened the blow of a cultural shift that's reshaping shopping habits on both sides of the border. Remember those impromptu McDonald's or Wendy's runs after an afternoon spent browsing duty-free shops? In Q1 of 2025, the same 35% drop in Canadian car traffic led to a staggering $350 million decline in fast food sales. Border restaurants, seasoned in serving U.S. customers, suddenly found half their booths empty and drive-thrus unnaturally quiet. As Canadians vote with their feet and their wallets, they're choosing local chains like Mary Brown's Chicken and Freshie for healthier, kid-friendly menus, leaving iconic U.S. outlets grappling with unsold inventory and staff furloughs. For decades, Canadians crossing into Niagara Falls, Buffalo, or Seattle funneled hundreds of millions into souvenir shops, snapping up INY t-shirts, keychains, and snow globes. In the first half of 2025 alone, revenues cratered by an estimated $280 to $350 million. Family-owned kiosks that thrived on the ebb and flow of international tourism are now shuttering earlier each day, their once colorful displays of magnets and postcards replaced by "closing soon" signs. Behind the scenes, shop owners watched their profits dry up, victims of a boycott they barely saw coming. Canadian tech enthusiasts once crossed the border to snag the latest iPhone or gaming console at a bargain. Now, a new 25% U.S. tariff on selected electronics, coupled with exchange rate losses, has erased those savings entirely. Canadian retailers, from Best Buy Canada to Amazon.ca, have seized the moment, offering same-day delivery, flexible financing, and loyalty programs that U.S. stores can't match. The result, U.S. border electronics outlets report over $270 million in lost Canadian sales annually, and empty showrooms stand testament to a battle they can't win through price cuts alone. The allure of cheaper medicines and over-the-counter remedies once drew Canadians into CVS and Walgreens aisles. But by mid-2025, innovations at home, like Shoppers Drug Mart's online ordering and same-day delivery, and an emerging Buy Canadian pride have reversed the flow. Canadian pharmacy sales surged towards $6 billion Canadian dollars, with 15% year-over-year growth, while U.S. outlets along the border watched foot traffic evaporate. Pharmacists, once so accustomed to bilingual banter in their aisles, now face shelves overstocked with products marked down at closing time. So far, we've traced how weakened currency, political friction, and rising costs triggered a 38% fall in car crossings, and emptied out fast food joints, souvenir stores, electronics aisles, and pharmacies. But what about the high-end boutiques and bulk-buy warehouse giants? Next, we'll explore how luxury fashion outlets and big-box warehouse clubs are weathering the boycott, and reveal the overall economic consequences for U.S. border towns, including a potential $12.5 billion loss in visitor spending and 14,000 jobs at risk.
Look at this. What is that? There's 8 patties. This is not how it used to be. Like, you used to be actually buying a big bunch of meat when you get this. What is that?
Picture the plush interiors of Neiman Marcus or Saks Fifth Avenue just across the border, once filled with Canadian shoppers hunting designer brands at outlet prices. In quarter first of 2025, U.S. border luxury stores reported a 6.7% drop in Canadian-driven revenue. Meanwhile, back home, Canada's own premium boutiques, Aritzia, Holt Renfrew, and Simons, saw sales surge by 4.2%. as consumers rediscovered local craftsmanship and personalized service. What was once a weekend splurge on an American runway find is now a deliberate choice to support domestic artisans and avoid unpredictable exchange rate swings. The result? Empty dressing rooms in Buffalo, New York, and packed fitting areas in downtown Toronto, where national pride now trumps the thrill of an outlet bargain. At Costco and Sam's Club locations straddling the border, Canadian members once filled carts with bulk paper goods, organic meats, and seasonal decor. But by mid-2025, border branch sales slid over 12%, with up to 25% of former shoppers simply vanishing.
You see that? $9.99. See it now? $17.99.
Quebec's membership at Costco Canada hit record highs as Canadian chains matched U.S. discount deals, eliminating the need for cross-border trips. That mass exodus left U.S. warehouse refrigerators stocked with unsold turkeys and freezers brimming with frozen pizza. Managers responded by cutting fresh food sections, reducing staff hours, and even considering closing unprofitable border outlets. As Canadians retreated, the U.S. Travel Association and WTTC project a staggering $12.5 billion decline in international visitor spending for 2025, most of it driven by Canadian pullback. A rough extrapolation. With a 38% drop in Canadian travel, the U.S. stands to lose well over $4 billion in direct retail and hospitality revenue alone, and up to 14,000 jobs hang in the balance. Border cities like Buffalo, Bellingham, and Blaine are already reporting layoffs in stores, hotels running at 60% occupancy, and theme parks delaying capital projects. Chambers of Commerce warn that without swift adaptation, entire downtown districts could become ghost towns, lined with for lease signs instead of bustling storefronts. Canada's online penetration skyrocketed under this boycott. By June 2025, 55.5% of Canadian shoppers preferred domestic e-commerce platforms over U.S. sites, higher than any North American peer. Bulletproof return policies, free shipping thresholds under $50 Canadian, and local loyalty points systems created a compelling alternative. Meanwhile, core retail sales in Canada, excluding autos and gas, rose 1.2% in May 2025, underscoring a shift from cross-border escapism to comfort zone consumption. Canadians found that shop local not only aligned with national pride, but also delivered better customer service, easier returns, and no currency risk. Tariff uncertainty loomed large. Rumors of new duties on U.S. apparel led Canadian buyers to front-load purchases in early 2025, only to see anticipated taxes stalled indefinitely. Customs fees now tack on 14% of purchase value for items over $800 Canadian, and 10% of deliveries languish in inspection for more than 15 days. Those headaches, combined with sporadic bridge toll hikes and occasional border crossing delays of up to 2 hours, turned the once effortless trip into a logistical gamble. For many, the calculus tipped decisively in favor of staying home. Remarkably, Canadian retailers rose to the occasion. Discount department stores like Giant Tiger introduced cross-province price matching. Grocery chains like Loblaws and Metro revamped loyalty apps with personalized coupons, making local grocery runs feel transformative rather than second best. Homegrown electronics chains partnered directly with suppliers to guarantee next-day delivery. And for many Canadians, that was more reliable than a weekend excursion to Seattle or Detroit. Canadians have rewritten the cross-border shopping playbook, Empty U.S. aisles now testify to a silent but seismic boycott.
This is a $5 box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and I have it in it. That's it.
Washington's escalating rhetoric didn't help. In early 2025, U.S. officials threatened new tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, sparking fears that everyday goods could face similar duties. Ottawa responded by championing a Buy Canadian campaign, with Prime Minister Mark Carney urging citizens to keep their dollars at home. Media outlets ran stories of friendly border clerks turned stern enforcement officers, and U.S. talk radio fanned the flames with talk of economic retaliation. In this charged atmosphere, crossing the border felt less like a shopping spree and more like risking a small act of patriotism. Faced with empty shelves and quiet strip malls, mayors from Buffalo to Blaine banded together, forming the Bordertown Economic Coalition in June 2025. Their playbook included cross-promotion initiatives, joint U.S.-Canadian events to entice shoppers back with duty-free weekends and cultural festivals, tax adjustments, temporary reductions in local sales taxes or parking fees for visitors showing valid Canadian IDs, infrastructure grants, federal funds for beautification projects aimed at making border districts more attractive destinations rather than mere thoroughfares. Early pilots saw mixed results. A Taste of Two Nations festival in Sault Ste. Marie attracted 5,000 visitors, 20% Canadian, but required hefty subsidies. Planners admit that without deeper structural change, such one-off events are stopgaps rather than solutions. Major U.S. chains realized that conventional tactics wouldn't suffice. Walmart trialed a virtual border program, allowing Canadians to browse U.S. store inventories online at Canadian prices, then ship domestically with no customs fees. Preliminary uptake was promising, capturing 8% of former cross-border sales. Target piloted a Border Club loyalty card offering exclusive online deals to Canadian members, but struggled with low awareness outside major metro areas. Regional players pivoted too. A quaint gift shop in Niagara Falls, once brimming with Canadian tourists, launched a Canadian branch in St. Catharines, leveraging local artisans. A Michigan outlet mall converted empty storefronts into Canadian pop-ups. Winnipeg's artisan chocolate maker Coco and Company sold out in a weekend. Data analytics became key. Retailers tapped anonymized cell phone data to track cross-border foot traffic patterns, discovering peak shopping times had shifted from weekends to late-night online browsing sessions. Custom CRM alerts pinged Canadian customers with flash sale notifications when exchange rate swings favored a border purchase. Yet, these digital interventions often couldn't overcome the fundamental cost and convenience advantages of domestic shopping. Economists warn that the silent boycott may leave lasting scars. With an estimated $4 billion in lost retail and hospitality revenues, and up to 14,000 local jobs on the line, political pressure is mounting for a formal resolution. Some U.S. lawmakers propose bilateral shopping accords to limit duty-free allowances, streamline trusted traveler programs, and cap bridge tolls. Canadian premiers, for their part, debate incentives for citizens to explore U.S. cultural and sporting events, seeking a return to the days when cross-border ties felt reciprocal rather than transactional. Beyond economics, this boycott reflects a deeper change in Canadian identity. A generation that once viewed the U.S. mall as a rite of passage now takes pride in a thriving domestic retail scene. Social media hashtags like #ShopLocalCanada trended in June 2025, with influencers showcasing Canadian labels, food brands, and handcrafted goods. Even U.S. retailers who offered enviable deals found their allure diminished in a landscape where national pride and convenience outweighed small price savings. The road to recovery is narrow. Border economies eye the fall tourist season and the promise of reciprocal youth exchange programs, hoping to reignite cross-border curiosity among families and students. Some retailers openly lobbied for a new border bonus Visa card, offering fee rebates on both sides of the border. But real change demands stable currency, mutual goodwill, and policy certainty. Ingredients that have been in short supply in 2025. When parking lots sit empty and shoppers choose apps over road trips, demand moves from storefronts to huge warehouses. That rush of online orders keeps goods flowing, but it also fuels the machines and pink slips on Amazon's sorting floors. Growth that often comes with a human cost.
Badges, they taking our vets and making us hand over our vets, bro. I ain't gonna lie, this shit is crazy, man. This shit is crazy, man. Like, we really just get walked out right now, bro. Like, I didn't think that the 10,000...
Could soon have more robots than humans working in its warehouses. The Wall Street Journal reports Amazon nears the milestone after years spent working to automate tasks previously done by humans.
Really given my whole energy and life over the last 4 months to this job, and to be let go for no reason is like a huge slap in the face.
To the CEO of Amazon telling the company's employees that some of their jobs will be replaced by AI.
Are you an Amazon employee waking up to a blank email from HR? Have you seen headlines warning that AI will replace your role? And did you know nearly 100,000 tech workers have lost jobs just in the first half of 2025? Welcome to the new reality at Amazon, where automation and layoffs collide in the largest job market shakeup in decades. Amazon's workforce peaked at 1.6 million in 2021. Today, it stands at 1.56 million, down 48,000 jobs. Yet recent growth added 31,000 employees in 2024, masking deeper cuts in high-tech divisions. In 2025 alone, around 100 roles vanished from devices and services, dozens more from communications and sustainability, and whispers of managerial reduction swirl, even as Amazon clarifies no wholesale culls. Meanwhile, CEO Andy Jassy's candid memo: as we roll out more generative AI and agents, we will need fewer people doing some of the jobs done today, sent chills through internal Slack channels. Amazon workforce evolution versus global AI job displacement. That graph tells a stark story. While Amazon's headcount dips slightly, global AI displacements surged. 85 million jobs lost by end 2025, even as 97 million new roles emerge, leaving a net gain of 12 million, but skewed toward highly skilled positions. For Amazon's 1.1 million US-based employees, this means 200,000 jobs at risk of automation. Robots in warehouses and AI in call centers replacing human labor at a breakneck pace. Workers' voices amplify the anxiety.
18,000 people got laid off from Amazon today. I definitely get what you're feeling right now.
It drives me nuts. Why does it take 10 years to apply to one singular job?
What is the absolute lowest dollar amount I would value myself, my time, my skills, my worth?
These aren't isolated tweets. They reflect a cultural fear as Amazon pours hundreds of millions into digit robots to replace you. Office vacancy is another signal of the storm. Amazon plans to save $1.3 billion by cutting leases short, shrinking its office footprint to absorb a 34% vacancy rate. Meanwhile, U.S. office vacancies hit 20.4% nationally, 28.4% in San Francisco, underscoring a weaker demand for traditional roles and spaces. Employees forced back to hubs, some relocated across states, face the harsh ultimatum: get the most done with the least amount of resources required to do the job, Jassy declared. Echoing the New York Times, Amazon gives employees a harsh ultimatum amid layoff fears. Within fulfillment centers, robots now handle millions of packages. Amazon's automation spend targets $10 billion in annual savings, deploying over 4.28 million warehouse robots globally by 2025. With 25% of warehouses already automated, up from 5% in 2015, workers see colleagues replaced by machines that never tire, never call in sick, and never demand a raise. Yet amidst this upheaval, entry-level and mid-career employees bear the brunt. Office vacancy and return-to-office mandates collide with layoff fears, forcing many to contemplate freelance work or reskilling in AI. Next, we'll dive into the emotional toll, personal stories of shock and uncertainty, and reveal how Amazon's internal policies amplify anxiety. We'll also compare Amazon's automation to broader industry layoffs, Microsoft's 15,000 cuts, Intel's 20% workforce reduction, and Google's 10,000 plus roles eliminated, all part of a tech sector bloodbath. As the hum of warehouse robots grows louder, the human cost becomes painfully clear. In January 2025, dozens of employees in communications and sustainability were escorted from Seattle's headquarters with scant notice. One veteran sustainability analyst recounted logging in one morning to find her badge deactivated. No severance meeting, just an automated email. She texted colleagues,
What is the absolute lowest dollar amount I would value myself, my time, my skills, my worth?
That question now echoes through countless Slack channels, where employees trade rumors of impending cuts. Amazon isn't alone in riding the layoff wave. Microsoft shed 15,000 jobs in early 2025, its second major round after 6,000 cuts in May. Intel announced up to 20,000 roles vanished under a 20% workforce reduction plan. IBM, Google, and Meta each cut 8,000, 10,000, and 5% of staff respectively, largely in roles now deemed automatable. TechCrunch reported that in April alone, 24,500 plus employees lost jobs across the sector. April marked the peak with 16,234 cuts in February and 10,397 in May. Internal surveys reveal the emotional weight.
It drives me nuts. Why does it take 10 years to apply to one singular job?
Lamented a laid-off Alexa developer. A fellow program manager confided,
We have had 11 people turn us down. They have offered people with college degrees $9 an hour. No health care, no benefits, no nothing.
Anxiety isn't limited to those whose roles vanish. Survivors face a layoff guilt pervading team morale. In one all-hands meeting, managers were told to keep hiring freezes in mind, even as Amazon added 31,000 new roles in 2024. A paradox that leaves employees questioning who will be deemed expendable next. AI's relentless march adds another layer of dread. In June 2025, an internal memo announced plans to integrate AI agents across customer service, tasks that once required an army of representatives. CNBC summarized CEO Jassie's message, "Get ready to be replaced." That phrase, lifted almost verbatim into headlines. Amazon preps employees for layoffs by talking up the power of AI agents, crystallizes the corporate calculus, efficiency gains at any cost. Yet the automation story isn't confined to Amazon's walls. Warehouses worldwide added 4.28 million robots in 2025, driving a 77% productivity boost and slashing operational costs by half. At that pace, analysts predict 92 million jobs at risk by 2030, with retail cashiers and data entry clerks leading the casualties. For Amazon employees, every new robot deployment heralds another team member out of work, even as the company touts its commitment to customer satisfaction. The financial calculus deepens the sting. Amazon's $1.3 billion in office lease savings announced mid-year contrasts sharply with the 27,000 jobs eliminated since 2022. Business Insider captured the tension. "We will need fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today," Jassy warned, even as Amazon lauds a 2.03% workforce increase in 2024. Employees joke that the only constant at Amazon is change, the kind that costs them their livelihoods. And then there's the futures paradox. Automation creates new roles, 97 million globally by 2025 in AI engineering, human-AI collaboration, and ethics oversight, yet 85 million are displaced. Entry-level workers suffer the most. Unemployment among new college grads has climbed to 5.8%, and job openings outpace unemployed candidates by fewer than 500,000. Employers now favor advanced degrees for AI-adjacent roles, leaving many mid-career professionals scrambling for certifications they never envisioned needing. The fallout from Amazon's automation surge and targeted layoffs has sparked a quiet revolt among its workforce. Employees are banding together to demand a seat at the table in this transformation. In July 2025, Amazon workers in New York's JFK 8 facility filed for the first-ever warehouse union local. They cited automation-driven job cuts and unpredictable scheduling as core grievances. Across the tech divisions, petitions have circulated calling for enforcement of the WARN Act, which mandates 60 days' notice for mass layoffs. Yet many cuts were staggered to fly under that threshold. Some affected employees have engaged labor lawyers, arguing that consecutive small-scale layoffs constitute a single mass layoff. If successful, Amazon could be forced to retroactively compensate thousands for unpaid severance and notice. Confronted with job displacement, Amazon launched Freedom Programs, online courses in AI, cloud computing, and robotics maintenance. Enrollment jumped 200% in Q2 2025, but completion rates lag at 35%, as many workers juggle demanding shifts. Meanwhile, third-party platforms report a 50% surge in Amazon employees seeking coding boot camps and data science certificates, hoping to transition into emerging AI roles. Yet with 77% of new AI positions requiring advanced degrees, the skills gap remains formidable. For those unable or unwilling to climb the certification ladder, the gig economy offers an escape hatch. Ride-hailing services and food delivery apps have seen a 30% uptick in signups from former Amazon associates since January 2025. Freelance marketplaces, Upwork, Fiverr, report a 25% increase in project bids from laid-off tech workers advertising web development, UX design, and AI prompt engineering services. These stopgap incomes, however, come without benefits or job security, prompting many to question the true cost of freedom. Consider Maria, a former Alexa UX researcher who lost her role in May 2025. She now tutors high schoolers in Python online, earning $40 per hour, but struggles without healthcare coverage. Or Luis, a warehouse packer whose digit robot position replaced him. He's retraining at a local community college for mechatronics, encouraged by a $2,000 state grant, but facing a 6-month commute. Their stories underscore a larger reality. Resilience demands resources, and many are running on empty. Amid backlash, Amazon doubled down on its people plus machine vision, pairing human creativity with AI's scale. The company announced a pilot collaboration lab at its Seattle HQ, testing mixed teams of employees and AI agents on customer support tasks. Early metrics show 15% faster resolution times, but human staff report algorithmic anxiety, uncertain whether they're measured against other employees or against the AI itself. Amazon's saga mirrors global trends. As 4.28 million warehouse robots automate logistics, 200,000 Amazon jobs face the chopping block, and 85 million roles worldwide vanish to AI, entire industries are in flux. The paradox is stark. 97 million new jobs emerge, yet only fractionally accessible to those displaced. Economists warn of a talent treadmill, where workers must constantly upskill or risk obsolescence. As Amazon trims offices and leans on automation, demand and budgets tighten across the economy. That squeeze shows up not in code, but in steel mills. Fewer orders, idled lines, and towns waking to layoff notices.
Here's what happens when your largest employer in town moves out.
Just announced another plant closure and laid off hundreds of Pennsylvania steel workers.
A massive layoff, which could leave more than 500 Pennsylvanians without jobs.
2 to 5 years, and even the company expects that. After that, you better be looking for something, because it's either you ain't getting paid what you should.
Today is your last day, the notice read. Words no steelworker ever wants to hear. Yet, by June 30th, 2025, Cleveland Cliffs will have idled 3 historic U.S. plants, including its Steelton, Pennsylvania mill, founding a community that's endured since 1866. Nearly 950 employees across Steelton, Conshohocken, PA, and Riverdale, Illinois, will see their shifts disappear overnight. In Steelton alone, half of the town's 6,263 residents worked at that plant. Closing it wipes out 500 to 550 family incomes in one fell swoop.
Steelmaker Cleveland-Cliffs has announced it'll idle the plant and 2 others this summer. The company says the decision is based on insufficient demand and also pricing.
Cleveland-Cliffs, North America's largest flat-rolled steel producer, announced these idlings after reporting a $483 million loss in Q1 2025. CEO Lorenzo Gonçalves blamed weak demand for non-core products like rail, specialty plate, and high-carbon sheet. Yet, when Trump slapped a 50% tariff on all steel imports on June 4, 2025, domestic prices spiked to $984 per ton, compared to $690 in Europe, raising costs across automotive, construction, and rail industries. Customers simply bought cheaper foreign rails despite the tariff, citing tighter budgets. One plant manager confessed, "Our biggest rail client sources half from Japan's Nippon Steel. Tariffs haven't changed their decisions." In towns built around these mills, live-in family legacies now face sudden unemployment. Steelton's mayor, Sierra Dent, warned the borough could lose 20% of its workforce, plunging local businesses into chaos. The diner that once served 200 breakfast crowds now braces for half that. Servers fearing layoffs of their own. High-paying union wages powered Steelton's economy for generations. Without them, a ripple of empty houses and closed storefronts will sweep through Dauphin County. Trump's steel tariffs were meant to armor U.S. producers against foreign competition. But the reality has been far more complex. Cleveland-Cliffs stock surged 33% on the initial tariff news, sparking Wall Street optimism. Yet in practice, higher steel costs have constricted orders from automakers and infrastructure projects, whose budgets can't absorb the extra $300 per ton. Altogether, the company is projected to save $300 million annually through these closures, money it hopes to recover by focusing on core automotive sheet products. But at what human cost? Oil rig fabricators in Texas already balk at paying $2 million more per project. A Midwest rail contractor halted 2 track-laying jobs after realizing imported rail ends up 10% cheaper post-tariff. Those cutbacks directly hit the specialty plate and rail divisions that downtown Steelton depended on. Workers report receiving closure notices with no severance details. Only a date stamped on a plain white memo, June 30th, 2025. We've seen how tariffs and shifting demand forced these historic mills to go silent, and how 950 workers and an entire town now face an uncertain future. But these closures aren't isolated. They reflect bigger questions about the effectiveness of trade policy and the survival of American manufacturing.
Cleveland-Cliffs said the idling of the big plant and elimination of more than 500 high-paying union jobs has nothing to do with tariffs. Within hours, other people were begging to differ.
The heart-wrenching silence of Steelton's blast furnaces tells only half the story. Behind the closures lies a ruthless cost-cutting playbook that Cleveland-Cliffs hopes will shore up its balance sheet. And it's leaving a path of broken promises in its wake. In a May 2025 earnings call, CEO Lorenzo Gonçalves laid out a grim calculus. Idling 3 non-core plants would save the company roughly $300 million annually. By shuttering Steelton, Conshohocken, and Riverdale, Cleveland-Cliffs intends to focus its remaining capacity on flat-rolled automotive sheet, its bread-and-butter product. Yet this strategy hinges on the very tariffs that were supposed to boost domestic producers. Gonçalves himself praised Trump's 50% steel levy, calling it a bold defense of American industry, only to concede weeks later that downstream customers were simply buying cheaper imports, undercutting his company's pricing power. That reversal has cost Gonçalves credibility. Union leaders released leaked excerpts from an internal Q&A where he admitted, if demand doesn't rebound by Q4, more idlings are on the table. Workers bristled at this public flip-flop. One veteran millwright, having clocked 35 years at Steelton, told local media, "He thanked us for believing in tariffs. Now we're collateral damage. It feels like a bait and switch." Cleveland Cliffs isn't alone in feeling the pinch. Manufacturers from Detroit to Dallas report that a ton of U.S.-made steel now costs $984 versus $690 in Europe, post-tariff. At an auto parts plant in Michigan, managers announced a temporary shutdown of a stamping line, citing uncompetitive raw material expenses. In the rail sector, one major contractor halted 2 Midwest track projects indefinitely, lamenting that tariff-driven price increases wiped out profit margins. "We supported tariffs to save American jobs," a contractor's president told the Wall Street Journal. "Instead, we're canceling orders left and right." Steelworker unions had initially lobbied for tariffs, believing they'd protect members' livelihoods. Now they're suing the administration, demanding subsidies for displaced workers and a reversal of duties that have backfired. In Steelton, the Union Hall, once a hub of solidarity, now serves as a makeshift food pantry for laid-off families. Children who once clung to the promise of union pensions now face scholarship pullbacks. Local banks recall home loans as unemployment spikes. Critics argue that Cleveland Cliffs and policymakers ignored smarter solutions. Instead of blanket tariffs, industry analysts had proposed targeted safeguards, temporary import quotas on specific products like rail and specialty plate, paired with incentives for domestic buyers. These nuanced measures could have protected Steelton's core business without burdening automotive and construction customers. But political theater and broad-brush policies won the day, leaving workers to bear the brunt.
Hours after the shocking announcement by Cleveland Cliffs, the plant has been there since 1866. It is one of 3 in America that make railroad tracks.
The closure of Steelton's mill isn't just another corporate decision. It threatens to erase nearly 160 years of heritage. Founded in 1866, the Steelton plant forged rails that built America's railroads, sank beams into skyscrapers, and powered wars. Generations of families, grandfathers to sons, clocked in under its smokestacks. Now, that legacy flickers out alongside the final torch of molten steel. Mayor Sierra Dent has personally lobbied Washington for relief. In a recent town hall, she reminded lawmakers that Steelton isn't just a dot on the map. It's the economic engine for Dauphin County. With 20% of the workforce suddenly jobless, local businesses brace for closures, and municipal revenues could plunge by an estimated 15%, jeopardizing schools, public safety, and infrastructure projects. Dent urged federal just transition funding, grants to retrain steelworkers in new trades like advanced manufacturing or green energy, but so far, responses have stalled. Steelton's fate echoes challenges in Rust Belt towns from Ohio to Illinois. When tariffs meet global market realities, the intended fortress of domestic industry can become a gilded cage, too costly for customers, too small to sustain the entire ecosystem. Economists warn that blanket protectionism without targeted support risks repeating this tragedy elsewhere, closing factories that were once pillars of regional growth. Unemployment benefits and food assistance provide a temporary lifeline, but many Steelton families face a stark choice: relocate for work, retrain for unfamiliar fields, or rely on shrinking savings. A dozen laid-off welders have already applied for positions at a new EV battery plant 50 miles away, only to find competition fierce as workers from other shuttered mills flock to the same opportunity. Without coordinated investment in local job creation, Steelton's brain drain could accelerate, leaving an aging population and empty streets. Steelton's closure shows that durable manufacturing requires more than tariffs. It needs strategic investment in high-value, niche steel products, partnerships between government, unions, and companies to align tariffs with targeted assistance, long-term planning that balances protection with competitiveness. Absent these, towns like Steelton risk becoming cautionary tales rather than thriving industrial centers. Yet, hope remains. Nearby Conshohocken is exploring conversion of its idle mill into a green hydrogen production site, leveraging existing infrastructure for next-generation energy. Riverdale's community college launched accelerated training programs in robotics maintenance, aiming to repurpose former steelworkers' mechanical expertise. If Steelton can attract similar projects, perhaps a specialty alloy plant or a metals recycling hub, the town might write a new chapter in its storied past. Tariffs can rewrite the price of your daily coffee and shake up entire towns. Click the video on your screen, Brazil rejected, U.S. coffee exports. I'll meet you there to walk through every shocking turn.